Welcome to I Need a Coach, where we interview top coaches, experts, authors, speakers, hear their stories, how they got going in their business, who they help, and how to grow your business. My name's Adam Packard. I'm the host. And today we have a special guest, Tom Henschel, who actually was an actor for a number of years, turned coach. And he actually has been coaching for 34 years since 1990. And he's going to dive into how to leverage your network, how to build a referral-based business, and how to attract more and more people without having to do a ton of outbound marketing. So interesting conversation. Hope you enjoy. All right. Welcome to I Need a Coach. I'm joined today by Tom Henschel. Tom, welcome to the show.
Thanks a lot. I'm really glad to be here.
Yeah. So you and I had a great chat about a month ago, and I enjoyed hearing your story. And, obviously you're at a point in your business where things are kind of working on autopilot. You get a lot of referrals, so we're going to dive into that. But give the audience a little bit of a context into kind of who you help, how you help them, what kind of coaching you do, and we'll start there.
Okay. First, I just got to say I'm really glad to be with you. So, hi, it's nice to be with you. Who do I help? Mostly Fortune 500 vice presidents and above. So that's kind of my target in the corporate work that I do. So I'm mostly a corporate coach. And what I'm usually asked to help people with, like executive presence, what I call the look and sound of leadership. That's one group that I help. Another group that I help, which is really dear to my heart, rising women in the corporate setting, helping them get promoted, helping them have a bigger presence. And then the third group that I help is disruptive executives. So
what's a disruptive executive?
Wow, it's the person who's everybody's upset about.
Okay.
Right? That they cause a lot of upset in the workplace. And sometimes they have really bad behavior. Sometimes they yell at people. Sometimes I had a guy who used to throw erasers at people. I mean, really, like, what? You're throwing things at people? So, but yeah, those people can be disruptive. And I coach a lot here in the entertainment business where, sometimes it's kind of welcomed. It's weird.
Right.
Yeah.
Now, those guys aren't calling themselves out saying I'm a disruptive executive. So are they being assigned a coach, or how does that work?
It's interesting. Some of them do know. Some of them do. And they think they have permission for it or whatever. I mean, it's pretty rare that they get a 360 and they're surprised. They know people are upset with them. They don't necessarily know what to do about it. And by the way, they don't always mind. That's the other thing. Sometimes it's like, fine, screw them. We don't care. Yeah. It's like, whoa, okay.
Right. That's funny. So how long have you been in this business?
So I have been doing this since 1990. So it's, over 30 some years. Yeah, a long time. And I didn't start immediately as a coach. And back then it wasn't even called coaching, but I have been doing this learning and development, executive development, training, all that stuff I've been doing since 1990.
Wow. That I'm sure you got a few stories of some interesting clients. Maybe we can dive into that a little bit. So when you and I talked, I asked you, what did you do before you got into the coaching that you're doing now? Go ahead and tell that story, because I found it fascinating. And of course, I had to go to YouTube and find some clips of you after we talked.
Oh, did you? Okay. Well, so this is my second career. My first career was as a professional actor. And I said, when I was 10 years old, I said I wanted to be an actor. And I actually got to be one. I went to Juilliard and was in one of the very first groups of kids who got turned out into the world as Juilliard kids. And made my living mostly in television and theater here in Los Angeles. And so I worked as an actor. I was one of those guys that just, I never became a star, but I made a living, and it was my business. It was what I did. So it was, and it's weird. It's a weird business.
Yeah, let's talk about that a little, because I know there's so many people that are, and I've heard this, I don't know if it's, not sure if it's true or not, but there are so many great actors, but a lot of it's politics, a lot of it's, getting a little bit lucky. What's the grind like, as an actor trying to find roles and auditioning? Did you have success right away and find roles, or was it always?
Oh, I went through periods of being unemployed for sure. Absolutely. but I worked enough to make a living. I had worked enough that I didn't ever have to get a second job. So I was way ahead of a lot of people. But the grind, I'll tell you what's really hard, Adam. There are two things. One of which is you are the product. You. When they say no to you. It's not like your script or your it's like you. You were in the room and they're saying no, thank you to. So you're hearing no a lot, by the way, if you're even getting auditions, right? You might be starving and not getting auditions, but if you're getting auditions, you're hearing no a lot just because of the odds. And the second thing is it's a business of scarcity. Nobody has enough of anything. And so people are not kind to each other. People can't help each other. It's not and people don't have your best interest at heart. It's not kind. So if you're not pretty strong, you're hearing no all the time and experiencing rejection in an environment that's full of scarcity. It can be really, really unpleasant.
Yeah. So what made you want to get into that?
When I was 10 years old, my older brother had picked up a movie camera from my dad and started making movies. And of course, I was in them. And people used to come to the house and say, oh, well, Stevie's going to grow up to be a filmmaker. What are you going to do? And I said, I'm going to be an actor. And we got to be in our 30s and we both were doing it. And it was like, isn't this amazing?
That's cool. That's cool. So you knew at a young age you wanted to do that.
I did. And, I happened to be in a school district that really nourished it and had lots of opportunities and lots of resources. So by the time I auditioned for Juilliard, I was pretty experienced. I don't know that I was the best actor, but I was really experienced. So, yeah, I was lucky. I was really lucky.
That's awesome. So how long were you an actor for? And then kind of where did that start to taper off and you decided you were going to do something else?
So when I was in my 30s, I worked a lot, but what was really clear, and I worked more in my 30s than I ever had in my life. And I started to make money that allowed us to buy a house and put my kid in private school, and it was good. And I could clearly see it was not going to sustain me. That I wasn't going to be 60 years old making this much money. This was a peak. So if this was a peak, then what's on the downside of the hill? I better make some plans. So I thought I was going to teach, because I have always taught. Since the time I was in high school, I used to teach. And I tried teaching a little bit, Adam. I tried teaching in the Cal State system out here, and I hated it. It was so unpleasant. I was like, this is not for me. And then I found out there was a thing called corporate training. And I thought, oh, well, that's perfect. Teaching grown-ups. They must want to learn. That was a big assumption, but you know what I mean? I was like, great, I'll go teach there. And so I started as a presentation skills trainer. So as my TV career was kind of diminishing, I started this thing called Essential Communications, which was just me, being a trainer.
Interesting. So when you started that, so how did you start that business? Where did you find your first group of clients?
So I did informational lunches and breakfast in those days. It was breakfast. I did informational breakfast, and 5 people said to me, you have to check out ASTD, which was the American Society for Training and Development. Now, I didn't know what that was. I didn't know what training and development was, but everybody was saying it to me, and I was like, I'm not stupid, okay, I hear it. And I walked into that room with no expertise, but having made my living for decades as an actor, which is no small feat. So I was not insecure, but I had no idea who these people were, or what they were talking about. And I found my community. They helped me, and they made me a leader. I was suddenly the president of the chapter. I was like, what the hell? I don't know what we're doing here. But you know what I mean? I got given opportunities that I just never would have had otherwise as an actor, and it was great. So that organization helped you through networking, helped you find the first few clients? Yes. And it's one of the things that really touched me, Adam, and it's still true to this day, which is I didn't know how I was going to find clients, but I didn't think it was going to be so clearly through my network. But it was so clearly through my network. People handed me work. People handed me opportunities. And that never happens in show business, right? In theater and television, that's just never going to happen to you. Or maybe it happens once, but that's not the norm. But here was the norm, this generous community of people who were just passing work to me. I was like, thanks. And people invited me to be on their teams. It was great. Yeah.
So when you started, your first client was back in 1990-ish. What did you charge? What was your offer?
Oh my goodness. Oh my God. It was maybe, wow, I wonder if it was $750 for a day. I wonder. And I know I did some subcontracting work that was probably $500 a day. And it, compared to television money, it's not anything. It's like nothing. But I was aware that like, oh, good. If I could do this a lot, this could be fine. And, $500 now is like, what? No. Nobody.
Right, for a whole day.
nobody works. You know what I mean? So it's just funny. It's the world has changed.
So as the business started to kind of take off and stuff, how did you kind of grow it? What were you trying to, I guess, did you have a goal in mind? Like, I want to make X amount doing this, or was money not really the driver?
Money is not the driver because it's not a language that I speak well. So I wasn't managing my money particularly well at that point in my life. I didn't have a concept. I couldn't drive my business financially. I really was working under the belief that if I built a big enough network, my network would take care of me. And that has been the case. So I've always volunteered. I've always put myself in front of people. I've never passed up an opportunity to share a piece of information or tell a story or whatever it is. And I get invited places, which is great. I got invited into places that literally have changed my life. Changed my life. Yeah.
So when you talk about building your network and relying on your network to pass you business, there's a lot of people that have big networks. There's a lot of people that don't know how to nurture those networks, build those relationships. Did you do anything special or unique to kind of plant seeds that, hey, I can do this if you know someone, or did it just come to you?
I did two things. One is I almost never talked about my offering. A quick story. Do we have time for story?
Plenty of time.
So I was serving on the board of ASTD Los Angeles, bunch of trainers and people involved in training. I'm on the board for 3 years. I'm down in the basement one night packing swag bags because we're having a conference in the morning with this woman who's been on the board with me for 3 years. And she says to me that night, "What do you do anyway?" She didn't know. And that was fine with me. That was fine. And I said to her, "Oh, I'm a presentation skills trainer." And she stopped. She looked at me and she went, "Are you kidding? Jesus, do I need you?" And she gave me work for like the next 5 years.
Wow.
And I had never talked about what I do. And I had always known, by the way, what she did. And it was like perfect because by then I was sold already. You know what I mean? I didn't have to do any selling. She was all in. She knew me. It was great.
So where did you learn those skills? Was that just naturally, that's just who you were? Or did you like study how to win friends and influence people and just attract people? Or what was because most people are like, I want to tell everybody what I do. You seemed like you did the opposite and didn't tell anybody, but you got a lot of business.
Well, I think because of how I showed up. I think because I showed up as an adult. So I love how to win friends, but I didn't read it until much later. So no, it was an intuitive skill. And Adam, it's interesting because when I think about it today and I think about the reverse, as an actor, that's not a good thing. As an actor, there's so much noise around you. If you don't beat your drum loudly as an actor, you will just get run over. Mm-hmm. But it didn't feel like that in this generous community where everybody was already being helpful. It was like, I didn't need to talk about what I did. It would prove itself. Mm-hmm. And I just have a belief about that it will prove itself, which is why I give my work away a lot. I do a lot of pro bono work happily because I just believe in it. It's all good.
So it's almost like the opposite of the acting world.
Oh, isn't it? Yes. Agreed. Yeah.
It must have been such a shift from having to scrape and claw and find work and get all these no's and get rejected. And now all of a sudden, I don't have to tell anybody what I do. All I have to do is, like people and give and share, and it'll come back.
Yeah, that's right. Which certainly would not be true in show business. I often look back over my shoulder and say, it is as if I kicked heroin. I loved it while I was doing it. It was really meaningful to me and it was hard to give it up, but I'm so much happier and so much healthier now, even though I had a great time doing it, So yeah, it is. Yes.
So, it was not a kind business. How many kids do you have?
I have two. I have two daughters, both grown.
Okay. And they're grown up now?
They are, with very different lives. And yeah, it's really cool to watch.
Did they think it was cool that their dad was on like Fresh Prince of Bel-Air or did they think it was kind of corny?
So my oldest one knew me when I was an actor, and she would come to the set with me sometimes, and I took her to theater sometimes. And at one point she said, "Oh, I want to be an actor too," to which I was like, "No, no, you don't." But she knew me as an actor. The younger one, who was 10 years younger, never knew me as an actor, ever. So that was really interesting. She knew me as an entrepreneur building my business.
Right.
So she got a very different dad.
Right.
Yeah.
That's interesting. Do they ever go back and watch old clips of Dad on TV?
Oh, yes. Yeah. They do. Oh, yes. Yes. It is like a party game when they, like, "Oh, let me show you my dad."
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's funny. That's funny. So obviously you've been doing this a while, and now your network is probably a lot bigger than it was back in 1990. Where are you at in the business now? What's how long are you going to be doing this for? What's the long-term goal?
Well, I'm not sure what the long-term goal is, but I'll tell you where I am now. Now I have this business that is very self-sustaining. I do a couple things that I really love and cherish that also help. One of which is I'm 16 years into a podcast about leadership. And a lot of people know me because of my podcast. It's become this amazing global thing where people know me. It's like, that's great. So that's one thing that keeps my business afloat, and it's really meaningful to me to do it. And another is that I do a group for coaches, and I just want to call out to all coaches. I do a group called the Executive Coaching Special Interest Group through ICF Los Angeles. And you can join, and it's 90 minutes. We do it 6 times a year, and you get credits for it as a coach. And it's great. And it's another thing that I feel like I'm serving the community, but I've also built this amazing network from it. I have met coaches from all over the world who come, and it's been such a blast.
That's cool. So, okay. You started coaching 34 years ago, before coaching was even called coaching. You started a podcast 16 years ago, before podcasts were even a thing. What's your future look like? What are you seeing that we can start today that in 15 years is going to be like everybody's doing it?
That's hilarious. Gee, I wish I thought I had foresight. I don't think of myself that way at all. What comes to my mind is the fundamental, right? Around all this networking stuff. It never changes. It never goes away. It really, if you're going to build a thriving business and don't have a network, don't have people who are cheering for you, that makes it hard.
Mm-hmm. It's funny, as I've been in this business for not as long as you, but just looking at things that, worked, pre-internet, right? Sending handwritten greeting cards, going to in-person networking meetings, having lunch and learns, having breakfast meetings, meeting people for coffee, having local masterminds. It's almost like everybody is so conditioned to, I have to do it all from behind my computer. And I'm guilty of that as well, because obviously I can leverage my time more and get, reach more people. But sometimes going old school and, doing just the old, warm, face-to-face networking, it's probably just as effective, if not more effective today than it was 30 years ago.
Boy, that's such a good point. It is really true that the times have changed around that, because there used to be lots and lots of opportunities to be in rooms with people. And that was part of how I built my business. So there was one group, I swear to you, I went every month without fail for like a year and a half. And then one day, some guy came up to me and he said, "I think there's something you'd be great for." And I was like, "Really?" Like, I barely knew this guy, but I had been showing up. Do you know what I mean? Just being in those rooms. And by the way, that was an opportunity that just taught me a ton. It was really interesting. It happened, but I don't think we get the same opportunity to be in rooms like that and just build relationships month after month where you see people and they think they know you.
Mm-hmm.
It's that I don't think those opportunities are there in the same way anymore.
Yeah, it's they're there. It's just not quite as mainstream as I think it probably was. Even 10, 15 years ago.
Yeah,
everybody was in networking groups, and then COVID hits, and everybody moves to Zoom, and kind of moved away from that old face-to-face networking. Let me ask you this. You've been through, you've had lots of conversations, you've had lots of clients. What is one maybe not mistake, but challenge or something that you overcame that you learn from that, you look back and you're like, I would have done that differently? Any situations that ever came up where things didn't work out or maybe you approach it the wrong way that could be a good lesson?
One of the things that I have learned is about people pleasing. I was a people pleaser. And so I ran my business that way. So it means I didn't always ask for enough information because I didn't want to bother people, that kind of thing. I got sloppy, but put it under the name of being polite, and did not speak up for myself as much as I might have. And as a coach, that's really not a good thing, because as a coach, you need to advocate for yourself a lot, including just your own reality. Right. And what I've learned is it's better for everybody when I can speak up and can have a voice and don't do the people pleasing. It's been a powerful lesson for me over the years.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. Anything else you want to share with our audience, fellow coaches, and anything that you want to kind of leave them with as a nugget? Yeah,
just two resources. One is, listen, a lot of coaches listen to The Look and Sound of Leadership, which is my show. So I'd welcome you as the audience there. But also on our website, there's all these tools that you can use if you're a leader who's working on yourself, but also coaches, you can use it to work with a leader. So the company is called Essential Communications, and the website's essentialcom with 2ms.com. And there's a thing called Essential Tools. You go in and just take whatever you want. There's a lot there.
That's awesome. Yeah, we'll put the link down below in the description for everybody so they can check it out. Please. Definitely go check out your podcast so you can grow your following there. I mean, it's so cool to meet you and have multiple conversations. And thank you for you can just sense that you give back and you want to help people. And hopefully this gives some people some inspiration that 34 years in, you've got the business that you always wanted to have and did it the old-fashioned way and don't have to rely on old marketing tactics to try to grow your business. So
yeah, I don't know. It is from a different time, isn't it?
Yeah,
it is. Yeah. I appreciate you letting me tell my story. Thank you.
Yeah, it's fascinating. Tom, thanks for being on the show. I appreciate you. Thank you for joining us on this episode of I Need a Coach. If you've made it this far, I genuinely appreciate your dedication. Putting this podcast together takes a lot of time and energy. In return, we only ask one thing, which is if you could please leave a review wherever you listen to podcasts. This helps our show get in front of more people so we can help more people. This is Adam Packard signing off. Keep coaching, keep thriving, and see you in the next episode.